Yes, guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another live stream. And a little bit later than planned, but I've been at a wedding this weekend. So, yeah, I had to do a little bit later today. But Chelsea back to winning ways yesterday. A controversial 2-1 win against West Ham in the London derby at Stamford Bridge. VAR controversy, Ben Chilwell back to his best, Kai Havertz popping up with a goal. It was about time that this game had everything. But, yeah, ultimately, Chelsea lucky to get away with it. But we've had a lot of luck going against us recently, so it's about time we got one that went our way. But obviously, it's a bigger conversation, which we'll dive into in a little bit in terms of the standard of the officiating, the VAR, etc. And things can't really continue like this. But, we were fortuitous yesterday, but it was about time that we got one that went our way. But as always, there's plenty to dive into today. Back to winning ways, which is the most important thing. And the most important thing was to look for a reaction from the Southampton game. Now, we got a reaction probably in the last half an hour against West Ham, but if we're being perfectly honest, the first 60 minutes was dreadful. It was really, really poor. Tuchel tried something different. We went with a 3-5-2 system. Conor Gallagher back in to start after suspended against Southampton. And then obviously we had Jorginho, Kai Havertz and Mason Mount dropped. So Tuchel making some big decisions and decisions that needed to be made. He had to do something different. And Mount and Havertz needed to be dropped. I've been calling for it for several games now. It had to be done, and it was done. And Jorginho was dropped as well, paying the price of some poor performances in the midfield in recent weeks. Christian Pulisic rewarded with a start, which I think is fair considering the form that Mount and Havertz have been in, and it was fantastic to see Wesley Fofana making his debut as well, which is always great. But guys, before I get into the game, I just wanted to go through a couple of other things actually. It was come out, I think, yesterday that after the game, I think it was just after the game, which is an odd one. We got it from Fabrizio, kind of saying that he would reveal it soon, that Chelsea had done a 50 million bid for a mystery midfield player. And it actually turns out that the mystery midfield player was Romeo Lavia. We gave Southampton a £50 million proposal. It was rejected, of course. The reason it was rejected was because Southampton didn't have enough time to find a suitable replacement. But literally, Southampton had only just bought Lavia from City for £12 million. City have got a £40 million buyback clause, so we're prepared to spend like 38 million pounds over what Southampton had just paid for Lavia from Manchester City. So it was a bit of a weird one. I don't really know where I stand on this. I think this guy could be a top player. He's still 18 years of age. Looks good with us. Looked good against us. But I mean, I don't know a lot about him. But the fact that Chelsea were prepared to pay £50 million for him was it was a little bit of an odd one. I think it goes to show just how desperate we were for a midfield player. But I couldn't really understand why that was happening. Why we were going in for a £50 million bid for Lavia when he just joined Southampton. He just joined Southampton anyway this summer. So. Yeah, a bit of a weird one. Maybe one to keep an eye across in the future, whether Chelsea were just desperate or whether Chelsea do hold a genuine interest in this player. Remains to be seen. But yeah, interesting from Fabrizio there that Chelsea were prepared to pay £50 million for Romeo Lavia, even though, I'm not really sure, do we need him? Or, I mean, that's a different conversation. But yeah, Chelsea prepared to pay £50 million for Lavia. I mean, I thought it was a strange one, if I'm being perfectly honest. And some other good news as well is that we are, and it's really refreshing to see that we've got owners and ownership group that are dealing with things and, stopping problems potentially occurring by securing the long-term services of top young talent and stopping potential problems from emerging in the future by tying down some of the club's most exciting prospects. We had the news yesterday that we had Armando Broja, who has signed a new 6-year deal at the club. It was confirmed, I think, Friday. Broja signs a new 6-year deal. It's part of the project for the next years. Thomas Tuchel wanted him to stay. So, I mean, top only going in with these kind of like these baseball-style contracts, long-term contracts for young players. So 6 years contract. I think there could be an option for a 7th. And it's great to see that Broja's committed his future to the club. I know you can sort of argue that on football contracts, some people don't mean much. Fana, a prime example, signed the new long-term contract at Leicester through to 2027, and then he wanted to leave a few months later. But it's great to see that Broja's committed his future to the club. The club have got him tied down on a 6-year deal, and hopefully he can continue to contribute because he had a really good impact at the bench yesterday. And also good contract news again is that Reece James has all but agreed a new 6-year contract as well, to become the club's highest paid defender in history. Just the final details to sort out now. Contract will be valid until June 2028, and there'll be an option for a further season as well. So we're at the final stages there for Reece James, Mr. Chelsea. I think he's actually, I say only on 60k, it's ridiculous, but compared to what other owners are on at Chelsea, Reece James only on 60k at the moment. So he will probably more than double his money, become one of the club's highest earners. And rightly so, a phenomenal football player, one of our own through the academy. He's Chelsea through and through. And I think a future captain as well. So it's great to see that these guys are tying their long-term futures down to Chelsea. So I'm really, really pleased to see that. But yeah, that's kind of the off the pitch things. I felt on the pitch yesterday, as I said, as I touched on at the top of the show, sorry, we needed something different, and Tuchel went with something different. We went with the 3-5-2 system. And yeah, I don't know. We had to try something different. I thought a front two of Sterling and Pulisic, it's dynamic, it's quick. It's not really got a lot of physical presence up there, but I mean, it wasn't terrible. But yeah, something had to give. We had to do something different. So fair play to Tuchel for taking those big decisions to finally drop Havertz, finally drop Mount as well, and drop Jorginho. We had obviously a midfield three of Kovacic, Gallagher, and Loftus-Cheek. I felt did well. Wasn't too bad. Cover again, not the best game. He's still finding his way back to fitness. I thought Ruben was pretty decent yesterday, and I felt Conor Gallagher was okay. Still got a lot to learn, but the fact that Tuchel picked him again straight away after his suspension, I think that goes to show that there's a lot of belief in Gallagher, and he's now just got to coach him and make him a better player, because he is playing obviously a slightly different role than he did play at Crystal Palace. So I'm just gonna get the team up on the screen now. Anyway, I'll have the discussion whilst we're obviously going through these ratings. There's a few things coming in about Mendy in the chat. Big up everyone in the chat, by the way. What we got here. Happy to get the 3 points, but Hammers got screwed. They did. VAR is dreadful. We did get screwed as well. These decisions even themselves out, but that's not the point of these decisions. The fact of the matter is that, this shouldn't be happening in the first place. The whole point of bringing VAR in was so that we weren't talking about contentious decisions in football matches, because it was coming to a point where it's becoming too costly to not have the technology. And yet we've got the technology, and I feel that we're actually talking about decisions even more than we were beforehand without it. It's ridiculous. It's every single week in, week out, multiple times per week, that we are discussing poor officiating, poor use of the VAR. And it's honestly outrageous. The Premier League the standard of officiating is so bad. And it's a number of things. There's no consistency. There's no clarity. No one knows the rules. No one knows what offside is. No one knows what a foul is. No one knows, several things. And it's just not good enough in terms of the fact that there's no consistency. There's no clarity. No one really knows the rules. One week something's ruled out. The next week it counts the exact same thing. There's no consistency with the officiating at all. There's no officiating consistency at all. The officiating is dreadful. And I mean, you then get the PGMOL coming out and saying that, they're going to launch an investigation into it, and that the West Ham and Newcastle goals should have stood. I'm thinking, well, hang on a second. That may be the case. I mean, definitely lucky yesterday. The West Ham goal should have scored, and we got away with one. But where was the investigation from the PGMOL after we were robbed when Cucurella got his hair pulled? Where was that? There's a severe double standards in officiating. Where was the punishment for David Moyes for calling the refereeing scandalous and rotten? Yet the week before, Tuchel criticises the refereeing and he gets a punishment. Declan Rice on Twitter afterwards slamming the decision. No punishment. How can it be punishment every time Chelsea's involved, and yet when other teams are involved, it's not. I just don't understand it. I mean, the refereeing is awful. I mean, they get an investigation into it. We get an apology from Mike Dean in a Daily Mail column. I don't really know where it goes from here, but the refereeing is awful. The standard of officiating is poor, and we've got to do better. We have to do better in this country, and there needs to be accountability for referees. If you make a mistake, like if you make a mistake if you're a player or a manager, you face up to it. You have to face up to it in the press afterwards. These referees and these officials, they just get away with it. Absolutely nothing at all. And I don't know. It's really bad. It is really bad at the moment. And the fact that, the technology was brought in to make things better, to make things easier, it's actually making things worse at the moment. And I don't know why, but in Champions League and UEFA competitions, doesn't really seem to be any problems with the VAR. The fact that we're spending, even today, a prime example, McAllister for Brighton scoring a great goal. And yet they're spending 3.5, 4 minutes ruling it out for a fractional offside. This is not what it was brought in for. This was brought in for clear and obvious errors. And it's basically now the game's being externally refereed. There's a referee on the pitch, but he's not really in charge. The VAR, the guys in the VAR room are in charge. And that's got to stop. And this kind of thing where if a referee gets sent to the monitor, that, he's obviously going to overturn his decision. I think already psychologically in the referee's mind, even though he thinks he's got it right, like the fact that he's being told to go to the monitor makes him think he's got it wrong. And there's that pressure to change the system. And I don't know. I don't really know what we'll do from here. I don't think it will go, but there's got to be questions asked and it's got to be implemented better, because the whole point of it coming in was, for one, clear and obvious errors, which now it's just looking at everything and it's taking 3.5, 4 minutes sometimes to come to a decision. If it's not a clear and obvious error, if it's taking you over a minute or two to come to a conclusion. And the fact that, refereeing in certain instances is subjective. So the fact that there's different like VAR teams every week means that some referees will view things in a different way. You've got to have, I think, a better way of going about it would have a centralized VAR team where you've got the same officials each week, so that there's some level of consistency rather than having it chop and change around. I mean, again, West Ham can feel hard done by, but again, Antonio, who was on the pitch who scored the equaliser, he was lucky to not have a second booking and be sent off for his foul on Thiago Silva. So I can understand West Ham fans are annoyed, and rightly so. But, Antonio perhaps shouldn't have even been on the pitch anyway. So these things kind of do even themselves out. But in the bigger picture, the standard of officiating is absolutely awful. And it's something that needs to change. So, Dan, in response to you in the chat, yeah, it wasn't a foul on Mendy at all. It really wasn't. And we massively got away with one. Our main issue right now is Tuchel's style of football, boring and negative football. He needs to adjust his tactics. Yep, I would agree. It's fine to like Tuchel, and I love Tuchel, but it's also fine to say that the way he's coaching this attack is not good. The first 60 minutes yesterday, we were dreadful, absolutely dreadful. We're too slow on the ball. We're slow in transitions. We're not really a counter-attacking side. We haven't really got an identity at the moment. You sort of look at Chelsea and just think, well, what's the identity? We don't really have an identity, a style of football. I'm not comparing us to Man United or anything, but you've seen Ten Hag come in, and they've kind of they've won 4 games on the spin, and you can kind of see a clear idea and a clear identity there. You still don't really know what Chelsea's identity is at the moment. I think that's also a massive problem. But I do think that now that the transfer window's closed and that Tuchel can kind of focus fully on the football now, rather than having all the other things distracting him like he did in the transfer window, I'm hoping for kind of an upturn in fortunes and in how we perform, because I know we've got away with one yesterday, but we have to perform a lot better. Raymond, it'll make a difference, but it's not going to make us attack any better, I don't think. There'll be more solidity and whatnot, but I don't think it's as simple as signing a holding midfield player and then suddenly everything's fine. It's not as simple as that. Agreed. Dead in the water. Fofana, I thought, was top draw yesterday. Really solid debut. Very good from him. But yeah, in terms of the game itself, obviously, first 60 minutes we were dreadful, boring to watch. Same old Chelsea that we've seen for large parts of this season. But yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, we go a goal down. And again, set pieces. What is going on with Chelsea and set pieces at the moment? We just got an issue where we get caught on the break from our own set plays and we cannot defend set pieces. Another goal conceded from set plays. It's a ball into the box. Mendy flaps at it. And then there's an almighty scramble. And it comes to Declan Rice. He plays it across. There's an almighty scramble in the 6-yard box. And Antonio's on hand to tap it in. I don't really know what we do here, because it's clear that we cannot defend set plays. We were so good at defending set plays last season. I don't really know what's changed. Yes, we've got a couple of new players in there in terms of Koulibaly and Fofana who will have to learn the ways, but these aren't exactly poor footballers. They know how to defend a set piece. Yes, it might be slightly different defending a set piece than they might have been used to in their previous teams, but fact of the matter is that as a defensive unit, I don't understand why we cannot defend set plays, and that's something that we've really got to improve upon because it's costing us a lot of goals at the moment. And I'm thinking we go one down, and I'm just like, oh God, here we go again. Goal down. We're not playing well. We're in trouble. But in fairness, fair play to the lads. In that final half hour, there was a big improvement. We dug in, we showed resilience, and we showed character in difficult times. And for the second home game in a row, we actually showed that resilience and we showed strong mentalities and didn't let our heads drop, which I think is really important because we've been fragile in the past. I've accused this Chelsea side, as many people have, of being mentally weak. And actually, we improved a lot yesterday. When we went a goal behind, we kind of started playing, but it shouldn't take that to happen. I felt the substitutes yesterday, fair play to Tuchel. Again, he's been critical of his substitutions. Sometimes waits too long for them, sometimes not the right ones. But he brought the subs on, and they all made a difference. Chilwell was phenomenal. When he came on, back to the sort of the Chilwell of old that we know. A fantastic finish for the goal. The way that he does a full 180 and then just a full 360, sorry, and then just has the whereabouts to knock it through the keeper's legs. Great goal from him. And then he's got the assist for Kai Havertz. And finally, Havertz in the right place at the right time and puts the ball in the back of the net, which is what we needed him to do. But yeah, everyone contributed in terms of off the bench. But yeah, I was delighted to see Chilwell get back to his best. But under no illusions that Chelsea have got to play so much better. We're still finding our feet a little bit this season, but we've got to play better. Have to play better. In terms of Tuchel's it's got to be a bit more pleasing on the eye. And we just need to do a bit more. But the game itself, not too much more to say on it really. Other than we were a little bit lucky, but at the end of the day, you make your own luck, and we've had so many go against us that it's about time we had one go for us. And we had one go for us, and unfortunately, West Ham were on the receiving end of it, and it didn't work out for them, but it worked out for us. And we get to a couple of things in the chat. Dan, I'll answer that one in a sec. Raymond, let's have a look at this. Broja, Havertz, Sterling, Cover, Zakaria, Chilwell. I'm not sure. I can't really think of our best 11 right now. Arsenal have a set piece coach. They have improved so much in corners. And we've got a set. I'm pretty certain we've got a set piece coach. That's why we were so good at defending set pieces last season. I don't know if he's left or he's gone to a different role, but whatever's happening now isn't working. Or maybe we need to get a new set piece coach potentially. Yeah, clean sheets are dead in the water. For a team that's used to keeping a lot of clean sheets and meant to be defensively solid, we haven't kept a clean sheet for a while. At the end of the day, as long as we're winning football matches, that's the most important thing. But yeah, more clean sheets would be a bit more beneficial, and you would like to see it. You really would like to see a few more clean sheets come our way. But as long as we're winning, I think that's the most important thing. When do you think Aubameyang will play, Chelsea? Not sure. He was sent to Milan to get fitted for a mask so that he could try to get back into training and hopefully play as soon as possible. He won't be involved on Tuesday. I would say maybe in a couple of weeks' time at home to Salzburg in the Champions League. So not this week, next midweek. I think there could be a small chance that he could feature in that one from the bench, or maybe in the Premier League the weekend after. But I don't think he's quite ready just yet. But I think it might be a bit sooner than people may have expected on that front. But let's move into the player ratings, guys. By the way, people keep smashing the likes on the stream. Please get those likes up. If you're watching now, you haven't smashed that like button, please do smash the likes. It really helps me out and helps spread the stream in the algorithm. And also, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. On the road to 2K subscribers, well over halfway there now. We're closing in on 1.6K now. So if you're watching now and you're not subscribed, please do click that subscribe button. But yeah, let's get into these player ratings, guys. We're going to start in goal with Edouard Mendy. Will Zakaria start the next game? He'll be in the squad. I don't think he'll start, but I think he'll play. I think he'd play some minutes. Jonas, that's what I thought as well. But the fact that he could be able to play in a mask, so there's a chance that it could be a little bit sooner potentially. But we'll have to wait and see. Kepa Kepa starts in the Champions League. I agree with that. I'd pick him. Give him a run of games. Tuchel and Mendy don't see Kepa as a competitor. Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a small chance that Mendy might be out injured anyway for the next game. But I agree. I think it's got to the point now. I've backed Mendy a lot, but for me, it's got to the point now where Kepa does need to actually come in and play. How true is that, by the way? Diego Costa signed for Wolves? Surely not. Who's reporting that? Diego Costa. Oh, according to a report from The Athletic, Wolves were exploring the idea of signing Diego Costa. Interesting. But it'd be good to see him back in the Premier League. I mean, I would have taken him back at Chelsea, in all fairness. What is the best position for Havertz? Bench, I think, at the moment. I'm not really sure. I think that's part of a bigger issue in itself. I'd probably say maybe playing as a second striker, playing off someone is probably his best position. But again, I'm not really sure. I'm not too sure what his best position is, and I think that's a bigger issue. But back to Edouard Mendy. He's had a really shaky start to the season. He's been making a lot of mistakes. He's not looked assured. He's not looked at his best whatsoever. I mean, arguably, he's not really looked at his best since after the African Cup of Nations, which Senegal won. Since then, there's been a few errors creeping in. Didn't finish the back end of last season too well. Didn't have a great pre-season. There's been a number of errors already this season. And again, yesterday, got away with one. Fumbles it when that's not necessarily wasn't necessary to happen. And it's a concern going forward. And I've said it a number of times before. Mendy probably is our best goalkeeper, but at the moment he's in poor form. And I think if Chelsea are generally serious about winning the Premier League title, I don't think Edouard Mendy is a Premier League. You're not going to win the Premier League, in my opinion, with Edouard Mendy as your main keeper. And as harsh as that sounds, I think it's just the reality of the situation. He's okay he's all right for now, but I think things have got to improve. Things have got to improve from Mendy, and I think he could actually benefit from being taken out of the side for a few games and then rediscover that hunger, rediscover that form. I see people saying that, maybe his dip in form has got something to do with the fact that Petr Cech left the club. I know they were very close. Cech was a key part of bringing Mendy in, but I don't know. I'm not sure how much I buy into that in all honesty. It could make a bit of a difference maybe, but I don't think it's making a substantial difference on the pitch. Can Havertz be used as a creator? I don't know if he's got enough ability to pick out passes like Mesut Ozil. Mesut Ozil in his prime was one of the best on the planet at picking those passes. I'm not sure if Kai's got that creativity. I think at the moment he's probably best as a second striker, but again, time will tell. But back to Mendy, I think he needs to be dropped. Making too many errors now, and it is proving costly. It would have proved costly again yesterday, but luckily we had a howler on the VAR and we got away with one. So for me, I think, I think he's lacking in confidence at the moment. But for me, Mendy, I'm going to go 3.5. It just wasn't good. It really wasn't good. And things have got to improve. I mean, Joe, I agree with you. He's a good shot. He's not bad at shot stopping. But what he was good at before was commanding the box, taking crosses, coming and claiming corners and stuff. But even now, he's not commanding his area like he used to. I think defenders are nervous around him now. It's like Mendy's poor form, I think, is giving off nervous energy and stuff to the defenders around him, and they don't look as assured about passing the ball back to him or what to expect from him when he does have the ball. So I think there could be a lack of trust between the defenders as well. But at the end of the day, Mendy is a good goalkeeper. He's not playing well. And like in any other position, I know it gets scrutinised more if you get dropped as a goalkeeper, but Edouard Mendy needs to be dropped. So I'm giving him a 3.5, and I would not be starting him against Dynamo Zagreb on Tuesday. Gets beat at the near post too easily. I think I'd agree on that one as well. But let's move on to more positive things then. The debut of Wesley Fofana taking that number 33 shirt. So many Chelsea fans have been waiting to see him make his debut. And he didn't disappoint. I felt it was a really solid debut. He's aggressive, he's fast, he progresses the ball forward well, didn't really make any mistakes. I really like what I saw from Fofana, and I think this with Silva and Koulibaly is our best 11, is our best back three. And I was impressed with Fofana. I think he can only get better. As Devin Water says in the chat, he made some fantastic tackles. Really exciting performance. He looks like he loves Chelsea. You see the way that he's how emotionally he's on the pitch when we get the winner. I think he's really, really pleased. Really, really pleased to be here. It's his dream. He's delighted. And I think, yeah, spot on from Fofana. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. I'd give him a 7 for his debut. I thought he was really good. He was exuding confidence. He exudes class. A really promising debut from Fofana. Agreed with this, Damien Duff. Class, confident debut allows Reece to play freely in his strong right wing back position. Exactly, because Reece knows that Fofana can just come across and cover him when he goes forward. And I think that Fofana-James right-hand side, that's going to be a lethal combination once that hits full stride. Two players that are top players and have got such a high ceiling to become some of the best players in the world in their position. A 7 for Fofana. Moving to the other side, and I thought this was a really much improved game for Koulibaly. He's had an uneasy start. It's not been an easy start for him. I thought he played well at Everton. Good against Tottenham, had a shocker against Leeds, was obviously suspended for the Leicester game. And then against Southampton, he looked a little bit ropey when he came back in. This was a much better game for him yesterday. I felt he did really well. Again, back to his usual self, strong on the ball, strong in the tackle, good defensively. This was a much better game from Koulibaly, and hopefully this is kind of what we'll sort of see more of this level of performance from him, because as I say, it's been a bit of an uneasy start, but as he adapts to the league more, he should just get better and better. I think he was a touch better than Fofana yesterday, so I would give him a 7.5. Blue Star, Ben Jacobs reporting that Chelsea are still planning to very much revisit signing Edson Alvarez in January from Ajax. So I think it's one to keep an eye on for sure. So we are going to need a number of midfield players. Chelsea want to extend Kante's contract. Jorginho, no talks have started yet. So we are going to need to replace a number of midfield players next summer. So I think if we can get Edson Alvarez in January, that would be a big plus. But Koulibaly, really pleased with that performance. I think a 7.5 is fair, probably a shade better than Fofana was. But Koulibaly looking back to his best, and hopefully he can now push on from there after a difficult start to life in the Premier League. And then someone that's not struggling in the Premier League at all. I mean, this guy is phenomenal. Thiago Silva, every week just gets better and better. The level of performance this man produces at 38 years of age is unreal. The best defender in the league, one of the best defenders in the world still at his age. He just makes it look so easy. So easy. His calmness personified on the ball. He makes things happen. He doesn't matter about a lack of pace. He makes up for that with his reading of the game, his positional sense. Just a phenomenal football player. And we are so lucky to have him at Chelsea, and so lucky that he's still performing to this higher level, and we get to appreciate it every week. But I thought Thiago Silva was outstanding. Again, I was going to give him an 8.5. I thought he was really spot on yesterday, and that standout performer in the back line. What we got here? I wish that as well. It's a real shame that he couldn't get him a few years younger. I'm surprised he spent so long at PSG. Maybe it was too difficult to get him out, or too much money. I don't know. But the fact we only got him when he was like 36, it would have been nice to get, even if we could have got him at like 33 or something. But it is what it is. We've still got 3 great seasons out of him, so we got to enjoy that and appreciate it. But at the same time, we're thinking, oh fuck, we could have got. I think we could have got this guy a few years earlier. I think it would have been much better. Agreed, Blue Star. The league table is a bit more open now after Gunners lost today. Look, it's close things up, and as much as we hate Man United, we needed a win from them today so that we could gain points on Arsenal. We've gained 3 points on Arsenal, so that's really important. I think we are preparing for life without Thiago Silva well, though. Wesley Fofana's coming, so I think naturally he will be the heir to that central centre-back position. And we will continue to probably bring another defender in next summer as well. So we are planning for the future as well as the present with the lights off for Fofana. So life without Silva, it will be sad. Moving on to Reece James, he's a phenomenal player. I thought yesterday, not one of his best games. He even said himself that he's got things to learn and he can play better. I felt he was caught out a couple of times defensively, not as lethal or as good going forward as he normally is. But again, still a solid enough performance. But by Reece James's standards, it wasn't really the best. So in all honesty, think he was a shade above average, but I think a 5.5 for James is kind of where it's at. So 5.5 for James. Again, guys in the chat, let me know your ratings. Let me know your thoughts. If you think that's a bit harsh and that's wrong, or you don't think that's fair, then do let me know. But yeah, I think a 5.5 for James is fair. Wasn't the best, but certainly wasn't the worst either. He can definitely do better. But yeah, there was some shithousery from Reece James as well, which is always great to see. Moving into the other side then, Cucurella, who at the moment has been making that left wing back position his own for the last few games. I thought he's done really well this season. Again, not one of his best games yesterday, but he wasn't terrible. One thing I think is a big plus is that having Cucurella and Chilwell there is pushing their games on to another level. It's elevating them because there's now real competition in that position. So that Cucurella knows if he doesn't play well, Chilwell's going to take his place. And likewise, Chilwell knows that if Cucurella plays well, then he's not going to get his place. So that competition for places is driving these two players onto a higher level. And the fact that now we can just switch between Cucurella and Chilwell, and beforehand we were dreading Malang Sarr and Marcus Alonso for that left-hand side. Now it doesn't really matter if Chilwell doesn't play or if Cucurella doesn't play because we've got a top quality we've got top quality alternatives. But again, Cucurella, I think average yesterday. Was he a bit better than James? Maybe a touch better, but yeah, not his best game, but again, solid enough. And he's had a really good start to life at Chelsea. But the fact that he signed, I think, is going to really push Ben Chilwell on to another level and really elevate his level as well. But for Cucurella, I think a 6 is fair. Guys in the chat tuning in, let me know what you think's fair for Marc Cucurella. I think a 6 is okay. Our first half best attack was poor. We couldn't score. We played. Yeah, we are quite boring at the moment. I think that's very fair to say. We're not an exciting team to watch. We're not good in the eye right now, and that's got to change. And that's down to Tuchel's coaching, and he's got to kind of get more out of these players, make it a bit more the football more progressive, more attractive. Because at the moment it is a bit of a chore to watch it, but we got the 3 points, and that was the most important thing. As lucky as it was, moving into midfield now, and one guy that I'm absolutely delighted for, who seems to have become a bit of a mainstay in the team after a lot of difficult injury problems, a couple of loan spells away from the club. Ruben Loftus-Cheek now seems to be a regular in this Chelsea side, week in, week out at the moment. I thought it was okay. I thought it was decent yesterday, playing at the base of that midfield with Kovacic and Gallagher slightly more advanced on him. Again, Ruben not necessarily a number 6, but he can do the job effectively. I felt he did well in all fairness, and I'm delighted to see him that he's now established himself in the team and is playing regularly. But there was nothing amazing from Ruben yesterday, but there wasn't anything that was totally shit either. So I think he was pretty good, and I am pleased to see him kind of put his mark on this Chelsea team and getting good opportunities and a good run in this side, because I think he's a very special footballer. He didn't. Yeah, it's true, Duff. He didn't get bullied by Souček or Rice. I think he held his own well. Yeah, I mean, Blue Star. I think a 7 could be. I think a 7 could be fair for Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I really do. Let's give him that 7. But yeah, again, I'd expect him to probably start in midweek. You might get Zakaria coming into that holding midfield role. It was the right call to drop Jorginho. And then let's move forward now to Conor Gallagher, back in the side after that red card against Leicester. I think that's a big show of trust in him from the gaffer to throw him straight back into the lineup after being sent off and not having 2 of the best games. I don't know. I think yesterday he was okay. I don't think he was terrible, but he wasn't great either. I think just sometimes it takes a little bit too long on the ball. Well, yeah, it just. I look. I don't know what I like Gallagher as well, but at the moment, he's young still, and he's got to improve his game though. There's got to be a little bit more from him. I feel. I know it's still early days, and Tuchel's got to coach more out of him as well in terms of the fact that he's being asked to play in a slightly different position than he did at Crystal Palace, and play in a different way. Of course, far different playing for Crystal Palace than it is playing for Chelsea. And now that we just got to expect a little bit more from him, and I think that will come as he gets more used to playing at this level. Yeah, I like his energy as well, but again, unfortunately, you need a bit more than energy to influence a football match and to be picked regularly week in, week out. You can't just bring energy; you've got to bring a bit more to the table. And at the moment, Gallagher's not quite bringing that, but I think in due course he will. Gallagher doesn't suit possession-based system, needs to improve passing and decision-making. Yet, I think, again, part of that rushing into things, I think is an eagerness to impress. Like, I think he's almost too keen to impress. Too keen to impress, too keen to make an impact. And then he starts doing things wrong. He's so desperate to make his mark on his team and impress the manager. I think if he perhaps relaxed a little bit, took things a little bit easier, he might start to play more of his natural game. But yeah, I think this system definitely helps him better. Gallagher having a midfield player behind him and playing as one of a couple of number 8s. But again, it's been difficult for him. But I don't think he was terrible yesterday. He probably wasn't quite as good as Loftus-Cheek, but I think I'll give him I think a 6 is fair for Gallagher. I'm going to give Connor a 6. Moving on to Mateo Kovacic then. Obviously, he's kind of back to fitness after that injury that ruled him out for the first few games of the season. Obviously, played a bit more than intended against Southampton, but he was back in the starting lineup yesterday. I think he was okay. I don't think this was a great game from Kova. There was a worrying moment when he was down with his knee. I'm still undetermined whether he needs surgery on his knee or not. But yeah, I don't know. It wasn't his best game, so I think he struggled to influence the game. Not Sosa saying it. I swear, if Tuchel lets Ten Hag make top 4 with Man United, it says everything about. Look, Ten Hag's made a good impression since he's come in for sure, and I think Tuchel does need to get more out of this, and maybe we need to change the way he coaches this team, or certainly the attacking players, because at the moment we're just getting nothing out of the attack. We're just getting nothing out of the attack at all. We're really not. I'm not really sure what the solution to that would be. But I don't really know. But yeah, we aren't playing good enough in the attack. That's for certain. But back to Kovacic. I think just average yesterday. I mean, didn't do too much wrong. Didn't really do much wrong, but didn't really offer an awful lot either. So I think just an average 5 for Kovacic, if we're being perfectly honest. Let's move forward then to Sterling and Pulisic. Start with Christian Pulisic, and in fairness, he deserved the start. He really did. He's obviously not in favour. He wanted to leave the club. That's well documented for sure. But yeah, I think Christian Pulisic deserved to start, but he didn't really offer an awful lot. It's hard for him up top with Sterling against the low block, not really getting an awful lot of the ball. It was average from Pulisic, if we're being perfectly honest, and he's got to do a lot better. I think it's an opportunity that I feel he probably hasn't taken. He probably hasn't impressed with it. But I mean, it wasn't the best. He wants out. He's here now until at least January, so he's going to have to get his head down and put in some decent performances for sure. But yeah, this wasn't one of the better ones. But I thought a front 2 of Sterling and Pulisic was a bit of an odd one. Not really. I don't know, it doesn't really complement one another very well. Kind of both similar players in terms of direct take players on. I don't think there was a lot from Pulisic. And when he was replaced, Brozier replaced him, and he did a lot better when he came on for me. But Pulisic's got to step it up and offer more. Going to be very tough to get top 4 this year, Lampard saying. Defo not a given. No, I don't think it's a given in any seasons. The last 2 seasons, we've literally just scraped the top 4. Or on the last day a couple seasons ago, and then with a couple games to go last season. So again, I think the quality of the battle for the top 4 is heating up. There's a lot of teams that can battle for that 4th space. You've got to be on it. You really do have to be on it. Agreed. Yeah, we did win because of Brozier, and he signed a new 6-year deal. Tuchel wanted to keep him. He needs to use him more. I was disappointed that Brozier didn't start yesterday. And I would really like to see him start against Zagreb. I think there'll be a lot of rotation against Dynamo Zagreb. I think he really needs to start against Zagreb for me. He deserves it. But back to Christian Pulisic. By the way, guys, before I give my Pulisic rating, keep smashing the likes on the stream. Please do smash that like button if you haven't done so already. Let's get those likes up. There's nowhere near enough likes at the moment for the amount of people that have tuned in or have been tuning in. So please do smash those likes. And more importantly, please do subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't done so already. As I said, we're on the road to 2K subscribers, heading towards that 1.6K very quickly. So keep smashing that subscribe button if you haven't done so already, team. Would really appreciate it, guys. Okay, back to Christian Pulisic. As I said, I think average is all I can say. Nothing great, but nothing really awful either. We got here, Q-Stack. Pulisic needs to step up or shut up. Stop the mope and bring the... Yeah, yeah, I think that's a fair point. He's just got to get his head down now and start delivering on the pitch when given opportunities. But yeah, yesterday, just average, really. Just average is what I can say. And the fact that Brozier came on and had a much bigger impact than him would suggest to me that maybe now Brozier could be ahead of Pulisic in the pecking order. And I think he could well be. I think Pulisic is quite a long way down the pecking order at the moment at Chelsea. With all things considered, but there's a lot of games to play, injury, suspensions, five substitutions stuff. Pulisic will get opportunities, but he's got to do a lot more. And I think Brozier now, rightfully so, is probably ahead of him in the pecking order and should be starting games more often. Let's round out his player ratings with Raheem Sterling. Not one of his better games. We know he's got 3 goals in his last 2 prior to this game. Didn't really do an awful lot, if I'm being perfectly honest. What's this? Why do you mean wish Brozier and Sterling started? Why would Brozier and Sterling start? Brozier and Sterling, I think, would be a good front 2 to go with. But again, I don't think we're going to go to the front 2 against Zagreb. I think we'll probably switch things up. Yeah, I agree. Then I think it gets to a point now where certain players are just be better suited to other teams. And that's fine. Doesn't mean that Pulisic's a bad player. It just means that perhaps he's not suited to Chelsea. I think that's perfectly clear. I think it probably would be best for him to move on. But I think the reason we blocked it was because we couldn't get enough players in the door to allow him to move on. EPL Turf, big up. Why are we so boring and disjointed in our play? I think a massive problem for us at the moment is the fact that we are so predictable. Everything comes from the wing backs. So if you stop the wing backs, you basically cut off all of Chelsea's supply line. And this back 5, it probably is our best system to use. But again, it's become a bit too predictable. And, the wing backs are the most important part of that. And if you keep those wing backs quiet, you don't really offer anything. And it is predictable. I totally agree. It's totally predictable. It just seems now that, if you press Chelsea high up the pitch or you cut their wing backs off, then we're not really offering an awful lot. And Tuchel's got to find answers to that. He has to find answers to that. Opposition fullback 2, yeah, no, dude, you just mark the fullbacks out, the wing backs out of the game, and then we're lacking big time. Like the wing backs don't do anything, then we're in trouble, and generally aren't really that creative. I think what I would like to see is an Oba, Sterling, and Brozier front 3. I think that could be something decent. But again, it all depends. There's a lot of different options that we can use up there, which is definitely appealing. But I mean, to Raheem Sterling, a quiet game for him. I think, it didn't really do too much at all, if being perfectly honest. I can't really remember any memorable highlights from him, but I think he was a little bit better than Pulisic. So I will give him somebody should clip Aubameyang's jaws together and let him play. I mean, he is going to be fit. He's gone to be fitted with a mask in Milan, so he should be back in. He should be in training maybe tomorrow or early this week. The Zagreb game way too early. I think maybe in a couple of weeks' time we could see him a little bit earlier than thought. But yeah, Pulisic 5.5. I think that pretty much rounds out my player ratings. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with any of those, but yeah, those are my thoughts and those are my player ratings from yesterday's game. And it's the start of a big week for Chelsea now. The games are coming thick and fast now. Champions League is starting up in action in Croatia on Tuesday night, and then we obviously head to Craven Cottage on Saturday for a London derby against an informed Fulham side with Alexander Mitrovic banging goals in for fun. That's going to be a difficult game as well. But yeah, really important that we got back to winning ways against West Ham. Vital after the Southampton loss. And I just hope now we can kind of string a few games, a few decent results together. Because at the moment it's very stop-start, particularly in the Premier League. It's like play well, lose. It's like win, lose, win. There's no consistency with our play. So we need to try and string together a couple of good performances, get a couple of decent results under our belts, and try and get some sort of consistency and some sort of momentum into the season. I do fully believe that now that the transfer window is closed, that we will start to see an upturn in our form and we will start to play a bit better. I know yesterday wasn't much evidence of it, and we got away with one big time, but hopefully that can be the catalyst for us to kick on now. What are we saying here? Give Brozier a run in the CL next week. Yep, totally agreed with both of those points. I was saying those earlier on. Brozier's got to start, and I think Kepa should play ahead of Edouard Mendy as well in in that one. But yeah, Chelsea back to winning ways. And now, to be fair, having said that, having had a bit of an indifferent start to the season, obviously we've won three of our 6 games, 2 losses, 1 draw. We are only 5 points off the top of the table and 4 points behind Manchester City, 5 points behind Arsenal. It's not a complete disaster. Things change very, very quickly in football. Chelsea, disastrous start to the season. Yeah, it's not been great. Needed to be better. But the fact of the matter is now, after 6 games, we are only 5 points off the top of the table. Yes, you'd like to be a bit closer, but 5 points in football is nothing that can change in an instant. So, yeah, I think a bit of perspective is required. Football's emotional. We react after each game as fans and say it how we feel it is at the time. Some of those can be overreactions. Some of them can be emotional actions. But in the cold light of day, we're 5 points off the top of the table. We got lucky yesterday. You make your own luck. We've been on the receiving end of a couple of shockers this season. So it does even itself out, rightly or wrongly. And the 3 points are the most important thing. We move on to Zagreb on Tuesday night. But yeah, guys, I think I'm going to round it out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, thank you for getting involved in the chat. Please do smash the likes on this stream, and please do subscribe to the channel as well. If you're tuning in now and you haven't done so already, let's get those subscribers up. Let's get those likes up, people. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I will be back tomorrow with a preview for the Dynamo Zagreb game in the Champions League. So, guys, until then, take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Keep the blue flag flying high and up the Chelsea.